In the next few minutes, I would like to show you how the Corelytics Financial Dashboard can give you a very clear picture of your business, help you see where you're headed, and more importantly, help you see what's in store in the future. As we look at Corelytics, you're going to see that it's really very different than the way you used to do it in the past. In fact, to bring this home, let's tell a story. So let's take a look at Joe's restaurant business. Joe has a lot of really good things going on financially, but something's concerning Joe. Something with his expenses aren't quite right. So let's take a look at the dashboard from Joe's perspective. The first thing that you or Joe would do is log in to the dashboard website using a secured login. The first thing you see when you log in to your account is what we call the leading indicators. And these are kind of a snapshot view of what's going on in your business as of the last 6 months. And so here we are looking at revenue, which is red, which tells us you are not meeting goal. In fact, this picture is showing us that we are down by 4.62% over the last 6 months. Now we need to dig in and find out why that's happening. So to get a better picture of the detail, we click on an option on the menu, in this case revenue. And now we're seeing a picture of the revenue for this company for the past 24 months. The good news is we've got nice growth of 24% as compared to our goal of 20%. And as compared to the industry benchmark of 14.5%. The industry benchmark represents the performance of peers and companies like this company in this specific industry. Now let's take a look at the forecast. Now that we see where we've been, let's look at where we're headed. The first thing we see is a high growth scenario of 20.6%, and we see a low growth scenario that is at 4.17%, and of course that's red because it's below the goal of 20%. Now what we want to watch for is this potential collision between expenses and our revenue. And what we're seeing in this picture is about 8 months out, there's going to be a collision between expenses and revenues if we follow the low growth scenario. And of course, the secret here is to make sure that we either are bringing in revenues above that line or we are moving our expense line down. And of course, even a better scenario is to hit our goal. And in fact, let's push it up a ways and let's exceed our historical high and perform at even a better rate. And this becomes the basis for conversation with the team. Let's go back to leading indicators and take a look at expenses. Here we see expenses in yellow, which tells us we're close, but we're not quite at goal. In fact, we'll see that our goal was 80% of revenue. And in actuality, in the past 6 months, we have averaged 82.2%. We're close, but that's still not quite good enough. So now what we need to do is go take a look at what is causing this difference. And let's drill in and take a look at that picture. When we dig in, here we see that expenses are growing at 14%, which is above our goal of 10. And of course, in the case of expenses, we don't want to be above the goal. We want to be below it. So now let's take a look at what might be causing our expenses to be high. In fact, let's go take a look at payroll because that might be where the problem is occurring. When we get to the payroll screen, we see something real interesting. First, we see that payroll is only increasing at 10.92%. And what we know is that something else then must be pushing us over this 13.9% increase. And obviously it's not payroll. We also see that payroll, while it is more than half of our total expenses, is not the culprit. So what we would want to do is continue digging through the other expense categories to find out what is pushing expenses up, and then that becomes the conversation point with the rest of the team. So let's zoom out a little bit. Let's figure out where is this jump in expenses coming from. So as we look at SG&A, our overheads, it's clear that that's not the problem, because that's only, in fact, that's even decreasing. So that's not pushing up expenses to this 13.98% that we're looking at here. What else might it be? So if it's not overheads, it's got to be direct costs. So let's look at our COGS total cost, and right away we see a number that is starting to make a big difference here. 31% increase in direct costs is a big jump, and that's where the problem is. Of course, from here we need to zoom in and figure out which piece of COGS is causing the problem. So now let's take a look at one of our COGS components. In fact, let's look at COGS materials. So on the COGS materials screen, we see something really interesting. Here's the number we're looking for. 116% growth absolutely explains why the expenses number has jumped up so high. And in fact, even though COGS materials is only 10.5% of total revenues, it is the large number that is pushing up our expenses overall. So this is the thing we need to be looking at. Why is this curve going up? And in fact, why is it coming down currently? And are we looking at something that's going to continue to trend upward, or is this going to level off? This is what Joe needs to understand, and this is the thing that's going to make a difference in company profitability. So now, even though we have uncovered the mystery for Joe on what was causing expenses to climb as they did, we want to know if those expenses had an impact elsewhere in the company. So for example, we might want to go look at cash. So from the balances screen, we click on cash. Here we see that we've got a good balance in our cash account on average over the last 12 months. The line is going up nicely, and we see that this 142,000 is significantly more than the 108,000 per month average for the last 12 months, which is 132% of that monthly average. So this is really a good set of numbers. We still want to achieve the 150% of revenue goal that is on the bottom of the screen, but we're well on our way to accomplishing that. So let's take a look at our ratios. For example, let's look at AR days, and the good news there is it's 37 days of receivables in the past 12 months, which is pretty much like it was in the prior 12 months, so we're holding steady. That's looking great. As we work our way through our monthly process, it's very possible that we're going to conclude that there are some goals that need to be changed. And on the goal screen, we can change any of the goals here. And in fact, there is a long list of goals that we can set for every account in the entire accounting system. Once we've reviewed the financial performance of the entire company, the next step is to drill down to individual parts of the company, into the individual lines of business. This company is a restaurant company, and so we see lines of business that are food, beverage, and catering, etc. And the dashboard is going to keep track of the revenues and expenses associated with each of those lines of business, so that you can look at each one of these lines of business as a business within the business and see how each one is performing, see which one is carrying its weight in the company and maybe which ones are not, and therefore where do you need to make corrections to make overall performance come up to an acceptable level. Getting started is easy. Sign up is simple, there's no long-term agreement, and once you sign up you automatically receive an email with instructions on how to hook up the dashboard to your accounting system. And then in a matter of minutes, you're looking at your trends and forecasts, and you can see exactly what is in the road ahead. When you first start up, keep it simple. There's a ton of great information provided by the dashboard right out of the box. It'll help you immeasurably understand your business. And then over time, add stuff to do with lines of business and with staffing, and ultimately this will help you be a much better detective for your company. And then we provide lots of resources on best practices, white papers and downloadables, dealing with advisors and getting the most out of your team. And then above all, we recommend that you make this part of a monthly process. This is what can help you and your team create disciplines and accountability that can transform your business as you go forward. With Corelytics, you're going to find yourself using a whole new vocabulary. Words like trends and forecasts, these are all a whole new dimension that layers on top of the two-dimensional vocabulary from balance sheets and profit and loss statements. The three-dimensional vocabulary of Corelytics gives you direction, speed, velocity, all things that are very important to understanding where your business is actually going. So come to our website, learn more, get in contact with advisors who are there to help you, but above all, take advantage of the dashboard to build a new understanding of your business and to move your company to the next level. Thank you.